Guys, welcome back. This is the second episode when I get together with my friend Tim Green and we talk about watches, we talk about subjects, we talk about life, the universe, philosophies, religion and politics. No, we do not. We absolutely do not. But you know what? This week we have been given a gift by the horological gods because Patek Philippe have launched the Cubitus. And Tim and I were just saying before we started filming, it's not often we get something so amazing to come across the desk as a subject for us to take on.
Yeah.
And Tim is frothing. Tim is absolutely frothing at the gills. I'm fired up. I feel like I'm about to go into battle. In fact, we're both in the tunnel before the match. It's about to kick off. Now, what we wanted to do was Tim's got a bunch of watches here that he thinks are alternatives to the Cubitus. But we've both selected one watch in particular that we think could be a genuine alternative to the Cubitus in terms of design and price point. So we're going to defend our choices and see what you guys think and if you agree. Before we get into it, we're going to talk about what we've got on the wrist. Timbo, what have you got on the wrist?
This is my Cartier Tank Louis. It's a piece that was made for the Paris Watch Club.
Yes.
And I picked mine up this summer. There are 5 of them. This one's platinum with a bluish, blackish, purpley dial with applied Breguet numerals and a ruby cabochon, and it's a very special piece.
I'm doing a story at the moment for the Rake magazine on my 5 best watches of 2024.
Okay.
I'm genuinely considering adding this to the list because that dial is unlike any other dial I've ever seen. The irony, of course, is that out of those 5 models, 4 of them aren't even in France anymore. I think 4 of them are in London because we know. Shout out to a couple of other owners out there. We know.
Yeah.
What a watch.
Yes,
what a watch.
Thank you. Yeah,
and it so suits you. I really hope you keep that one. Because you're almost as bad as me for new watches coming and going. Can I give you a brief one on this, Timbo? This is the Raymond Vale Milanese. Milanese, it sounds like chicken Milanese. It's not chicken Milanese, it is the Raymond Vale Milese. And it is the first watch that I think has transitioned from the traditional Raymond Vale, the sort of the airport brand Raymond Vale to the collector community Raymond Vale. 40mm stainless steel sector-ish dial, designed in-house at Raymond Vale. By the way, they're not paying their sausage to say this. I just love this watch. Salmon finish, automatic caliber, and it's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It looks very modern and very fresh. It's not based on an old model from the past, which so many other new models are. Genuinely fresh, and I've got great memories of the brand because I remember in the Caribbean as a kid, I very nearly bought a Parseval model with a mother of pearl dial and diamond markers. I must have been 11 or 12. Pestered my mum to get it. She would not get it for me. She was like, get a Submariner. I was like, I would get a Submariner. I don't have a penny to rub together. Anyway, that's a side point. Right, Tim Boy, quick take. The Patek Philippe Cubitus 2024, designed entirely by Mr. Stern himself with no design training whatsoever. What were your thoughts when you saw that Fortune ad pop up?
Oh my gosh. Right, so I feel very strongly about it. And I've caught myself out before feeling strongly about watches because, of course, they're passion pieces for us. This is a hobby of ours. I've turned it into a career. I love these things. And I remember halfway through the pandemic when you just couldn't get the watch that you wanted, I became quite emotional, quite cross about it. I sort of caught myself out and I said, look, Tim, stop getting so upset about these, these objects, these luxury things. It's a first world problem. Get yourself in check. And I've managed to keep myself in check, I think, until this week when I saw the Cubitus. And I'm really quite disappointed. I'm more than disappointed. I'm quite cross. Both with the product itself and the marketing and the response from Thierry around it. I think he said some words that I guess he regrets. We can go into that, of course. But I think fundamentally he's made a misstep on the design. I really do. Why do I think that? I think it is a square Nautilus. I think it is a dilution of an existing product line that didn't need to be changed. It didn't need to be updated. I know that they've got rid of the 5711. There's a 5811, yes, and that's in precious metal. So maybe this is their foray, a new foray into more affordable watches. But yet we know the price point, and the starting price point for the all steel model is £35,000.
And just to be clear, guys, we've got cheat sheet here: £35,330 for the steel with green dial. We've got the two-tone with the blue dial, I think.
It's 50.
Oh, it's green as well. It's blue? Was it green?
It's blue.
It's blue. It's blue dial. £52,480, all courtesy of our friends at Pragnell. And then the complicated one is £75,000. So those are the numbers we're working to, which is important.
And that one is in platinum, isn't it, with a micro rotor.
Do you feel that you needed to see the watch as well? Because this is something that people will push back on here, is you've not seen the watch, I've not seen the watch. You may well see a watch very soon because you have indeed had a few been offered to you guys at Subdial.
Yeah, we have, and at astronomical prices.
Do you want to name the chaps or the woman involved now publicly? Just
Sure,
to call them out?
I will, yeah. Publicly.
Talk about a way to potentially end your allocation history. So yes, you were saying though that you're not going to take any on at this stage because there's no metrics out there for what they sell for.
I think I said last time that that Subdial both buy and consign watches, and we're able to buy watches where we have enough confidence in the data on market pricing. And obviously this is a new model. There is no precedent at the moment. I'm sure a couple have traded hands, but it's not data that's been made visible to us. So we wouldn't be in a position to buy anything. We would obviously consign it. And it would be really interesting for us to understand where the price point is. But with all of these new models, whether it's a Rolex or a Patek or a Code 1159, it's really difficult to understand sort of how high it first starts when the people that really wanted to buy a new one weren't able to get an allocation, so they're paying overs, and how quickly that high price point dissipates, and whether it corrects down to retail or below retail or above retail. It's honestly really interesting, and you see it so much with new Tudor releases and obviously new Rolexes. And
Pink Dial chronograph, for example, is a recent example.
Right? Yeah. And the first time we've had a few of those on now, and we've had to consign all of them. And I think the spacing in between our models that we've listed of that model has gradually gone down by sort of 25%, and we're really near to retail price now on that. So that's pretty true to form. I imagine the Cubitus will fall slightly quicker than that, but who knows?
But do you think there's an argument here about us not seeing the watch? Because of course we know, we've fallen in love with watches over the years, that until you get hands-on with it, you just don't know. A lot of colleagues of mine who were out there in Munich for that launch have said to me, you've got to try it on because you'll see quality, you'll feel quality. And I have no doubt that you will see and feel quality. But that's not the point. That's not what we're touching on here.
It's 45 millimeters and it's square. It's 45 millimeters and it's square.
Yes. And you were commenting on the side-by-side shots that we've seen of the Nautilus worked against it.
Well, obviously,
how could that ever be elegant? That's the point.
No, and I just don't. I don't think that the Nautilus ever needed to be amended in any way, shape, or form. I don't know where to start with it. I understand that Thierry wanted to introduce a new model. I know that he was responsible for the 24. I also think that was not a great introduction at all.
He's also been responsible for this checked gear share on the central dials we've seen on Calatravas and other models. It's coloured. And seemingly that's one of his great,
6007. I think that's a real shame because the 6000 series model was fantastic. It was a glorious Calatrava. I think this is another misstep for Patek. And I think this one, unfortunately, is one that's going to really have some damaging, lasting impact for the brand.
Do you think?
Yeah, I really do. This is not a Code 1159. I know it feels like it because AP did something like this where they tried to introduce a new model and it landed really badly. The name landed badly.
But that name's a lot better to me than the Cubitus.
Well, Cubitus means elbow, doesn't it?
Yes.
And
it's the bone. Someone told me it's the bone in the arm here.
They might as well called it squareless, or something. I don't.
But interestingly enough, the correlation is we've got Ben Amias at AP at the time, who's got a big ego, who came in leather jacket, fucking Jay-Z pumping. Sorry, I don't know if we're allowed to swear or not, but I'm fired up. Jay-Z pumping on the full volume to announce the Code 1150. It felt like him and his legacy rather than the brand's legacy. Stern has got his son coming in the mix, apparently, and people are saying, hey, this could be an easy, opening for his son to move into. Is this his sort of moment to say it's about me? And is he defending it? Because I think the comments that have come out recently have been perceived and felt like they're arrogant. They are arrogant. He's saying, if you're not a Patek owner, it's not for you, don't worry. Anyone who's angry, that's not for you, know. I think it's the opposite. I think it's Patek owners that are the most visceral in their disdain for it because they've got skin in the game. They've got something to lose. They want to protect the brand.
And you are diluting that brand. Yeah. And of all of the watch manufacturers out there, that's the one that's on the pedestal. That's the one that people think of when they think of absolute luxury. There's Rolex to a point.
Yes.
It's the strongest brand in the industry. But if you're going to go even more, it's Patek.
What does it do? Because you've got your consultancy head on here from your Yes to Life. What does it do to the dilution of the Nautilus and the Aquanaut? Because that is now all bunched up into the single group from a volume perspective. So that now means there's going to be less Nautilus coming through, less Aquanaut coming through.
And I think that's by design. I think that the Cubitus is introduced as a sort of I'm sorry we can't give you this, but we can give you this. It's like a runner-up prize.
But yet we've talked about the pricing, and the pricing does not correlate. There is a problem here. Stern believes that this is something, he wants this to be something he can offer to younger clients, first-time Patek owners with no history, But speaking to people on the ground, I was literally speaking to an AD yesterday, telling me that they will absolutely not be offering this to anyone off the street. Now that's a problem, and the pricing does not reflect so what is he saying here?
I don't.
The sizing is wrong. I mean, I've got to give you my quick take off the cuff. Immediately when I saw it, I've got to go on visceral because when it comes to watches, these are always about visceral things. You either see it in person, you're like, wow, or you see it in the image. And immediately I didn't like it. Not because I don't like shaped watches, and my God, are we of a moment where shaped watches can work?
Yeah.
How many shaped watches have we seen this year? Burneron, Anomas, amazing designs. Didn't like it. I didn't want a new model from Patek personally. I didn't feel like I wanted one. I've been at the fairs and I think it feels like your grandpa's house. You walk in, it's like your grandparents' house, and it's like, geez guys, you look at fashion and you look at others and you're like, you need to become a little bit more modern here. I think you're genuinely taking the piss. I then, what else did I think? I thought it was clumsy design that could have just been so much more interesting. If the bracelet had been redone in some way, it would have felt entirely different. Yeah. I genuinely think, entirely different, and I don't think people would have been as angry if they'd seen a new design bracelet because you wouldn't have immediately linked to the Nautilus.
I agree.
And the ears on the model
keep one or two of the design components, the DNA from
but why all of it?
as a nod.
Agreed.
But there are so many. It's like 75% of the Nautilus, but lost all of the charm.
Agreed.
It feels like an AliExpress homage of the Nautilus. And I think that's designed to satiate the demand for the Nautilus to give to people and make them feel like they're not able to get the one that they really want. But here's something
actually, this is not about the Cubitus. This is about the Nautilus. This whole thing is about the Nautilus, about how we maintain that product moving into the future. People out there will say it's no new calibers, but there is a bit of there's a new added element of complication that's been added.
6 years of design.
6 years of design and hundreds of watchmakers that have all come in to add some key elements to the more complicated version.
And just on that point, if this was designed from the beginning, as they say it was, to be a square watch, why is it a round caliber?
Agreed. A brand of that caliber, pardon the pun, a brand of that caliber, did you get that one? Does deserve a bloody shaped movement. I mean, if Burneron can do it, with all due respect to Burneron.
And Langer. I mean, Langer, the Cabaret, for example.
Incredible value out there right now. Yeah. What a watch.
It really is.
Why
would you choose a square watch with a round caliber from the best of the best, supposedly? I just wouldn't. And it makes me quite cross.
Okay, so I believe it's going to have an impact on the future of the brand. Are we going to say in 5 years' time, when we have recorded many of these episodes, are we going to turn around and say that the Cubitus is like a sexy watch that I can see it across the room in the restaurant, and that's one that we missed?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not, and please hold me to that.
I agree. I agree. And look, we're all full shape watches, and you know what? We're going to dive into our choices for people out there now. for an alternative?
Can I give a little caveat?
Please. Are you defending yourself? Are you backtracking?
No, I'm not backtracking. I think if it was a smaller watch,
yes,
and I think if there was something, a complication perhaps that was introduced that was unique to that model line, something that made it the sort of go-to alternative to the Nautilus, not a you didn't get a Nautilus allocation, so have this, a second best price, something that made you think, I want the Cubitus because it's got, I don't know, monopusher chronograph or something that doesn't exist anywhere else in the line, then maybe maybe a different bracelet. We saw the ID guy and his idea of sort of putting it on a Milanese bracelet. That would have been amazing.
And that shape, we've got a watch which we can discuss as precedent in the Patek story. That very clearly, that when I saw that ID guy, shout out to him as well because I shared that picture. But it immediately looked very much like something that I knew internally from Patek from the past, which is interesting. Can I also suggest that the Hermes Cut, a new model that's come from nowhere this year, that might be one of my favourite watches of the year. Now, if Patek had taken the same approach, which was like smaller, more elegant, refined, on a foam sort of squidgy rubber bracelet like strap that's sexy as hell, usable, wearable, colourful, all of the good stuff that we're totally missing in the Cubitus. Anyway, we have to move on because we've agreed that we'd try and keep this under 25 minutes. We're fired up. What's your alternative, Tim, realistically? You know, we've got the pricing here again. We're going to cover it all. 35,000, 50,000 and 75,000. And that's not the secondary price. That's your primary price. So we're assuming you could walk into your AD and pick up a new one of these today. Yeah. Instead of doing that, we're going to suggest that you look at something else. What are you suggesting we look at?
Well, obviously I sell pre-owned watches, so I would ordinarily look at value in pre-owned market.
I agree.
And when I think of rectangular watches, there are a couple of brands that immediately spring to mind. One, JLC, Reverso is fantastic, but I would always go for Cartier. I wear a Cartier, it's my favourite brand. And I mean, years and years and years ago, when the wristwatch was originally invented, Cartier came along and created the Santos Dumont for Santos Dumont. And years after that, they produced a bracelet version of that, which again it's a dilution of the original DNA in that Santos Dumont, but it doesn't ruin what was something so iconic and beautiful in the same way that the Nautilus is an icon for the brand. This adds to it, I think. I would absolutely have this. This is a 2961. This red dial, burgundy dial, was introduced for the 75th anniversary of the Santos Dumont, and this is obviously a Santos. It's on bracelet. It's 29 millimeters. Because it's square, it wears quite big.
Just to be clear, the Cubitus is 45.
I know.
So this is 29.
I mean, you could almost have 4 of these and still occupy
Could you put
the
it on the
same real
wrist
estate.
just to see it on does it fit you? Does the bracelet fit you?
Oh, yeah.
And just to be clear, I know we'll have some pushback in the comments here about this head for head because this is retail. Now let's not forget these have been put up already, these Cubitus, for like 100,000 plus. And a lot of these are they're not available anymore, but they're trading under retail more often than not. So actually, we are at disadvantage. We are at a disadvantage arguing that you should go, pre-owned against the head new price, right? So
absolutely.
Just to be clear about that. So there it is on the wrist. Tell me that's not an elegant size.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. I really do. I mean, it's another point about the Cubitus. It feels like the design for it was baked in long ago, because back then people were buying offshores at 43 plus mil. They were buying Panerais at 46 mil. These days, that's not the trend, and yet Patek keep pushing larger watch sizes, and I don't know who they're trying to appeal to, because certainly in Europe, perhaps tastes are different in the US. But no, it just feels like the idea of the Cubitus was baked in long ago, and in a time when you couldn't do anything wrong in the market. I'm sure if the Cubitus was introduced 3 years ago, people would have lapped it up because there was nothing that you could produce. You couldn't put a foot wrong. Right now, there is a lot of watches out there and a lot of value. Yeah. And so you've got so many options. I don't know
what's
why
the price
you
on
choose
that.
This is a smidge under 10k.
10k, there we go. 10k. So you're walking away with, call it 30. You could be walking away 25,000, right? If you wanted the like for like in the steel, you'd walk away with that. and £25,000 in the back pocket to buy something else?
I mean, I'll put it this way: if the green Cubitus was £10,000 and this was £10,000, I'd take this.
That's interesting.
And I don't know who that appeals to. It certainly doesn't appeal to me, and I'm really quite upset about it.
Can you tell, guys, this is almost like a therapy session.
Yeah.
So look, I've gone for something else here. Fittingly, I've gone for a Patek Philippe, one that I've always absolutely loved. So my alternative to the Cubitus is this, the 5940, launched in 2012 originally, and the lineage of this model is from the 5040 and the 5041, and we cannot open it because this is from Subdial and it's service sealed, and it's just the most elegant case shape. It is so beautifully curved. It is not a square watch, but it echoes of a cushion. So it's a single block of rose gold. So it's got no applied lugs or soldered on lugs. It's a single monoblock case. It's got these Breguet numerals that are so beautifully proportioned. You know, we always talk about proportion, and this watch is what the definition of proportion is for me.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, the only critique maybe is that the Patek Philippe logo, this is a 2018 model, might have been smaller just to really take it to the next level. But look how small those Arabic numerals are with the little dots around the perimeter of the dial. The font, the serif font, is different to that, the Subdial of on the dial, but just so elegant. And the painted Subdial fonts is just... It's Patek of yesteryear. I mean, it's just so elegant. Perpetual calendar, complicated, elegant, delicate. Everything you'd want from a Patek.
Absolutely.
And the price is 40, late 40s, 48.
40s.
It's just,
yeah.
So,
but for a precious metal perpetual calendar
from Patek.
From Patek, not a steel time and date. You know, it just...
Tell me
just
if you saw someone rock up to dinner and they, under the cuff, you just saw that case shape, and immediately you'd know. Immediately you'd know.
Yeah, you would.
It would whisper to you, whereas the Cubitus shouts. I'm just going to postulate that that is going to be an interesting person with a story, and someone that you might want to have a conversation with. Not to say that the owner of the Cubitus is not someone you want to have a conversation, but anyway, tell me that is not drop dead gorgeous, and I've looked at it and I thought, oh God. Anyway.
I don't want to have a conversation with someone with a Cubitus, if that's okay.
Right, what we've done, guys, that's it for now. What we are going to do to finish off, Tim has actually bought a bunch of other watches that could also be alternatives. It's not the one he's chosen, but let's go through each of these. Because this watch, this Royal Oak from AP, is effectively what Mr. Stern must have looked at, because this is exactly what has happened to the Cubitus, but done with real flair and elegance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mid-size model.
Yeah, 6009 ST. It's 29 millimeters across, not 45. Even the jumbo is only 32, by the way. Those are proper case sizes.
And I've got to put it on because it is the most incredibly elegant watch and so comfortable to wear.
Yeah.
Might I suggest that is
it suits you.
A beautiful watch. And I'm not a huge square watch guy, and I'm not a huge bracelet guy. So this has got both elements that I'm probably not naturally what's the word? You know, naturally inclined towards. But this is amazing, and what a Playboy move to go for that.
Yeah.
In quartz, non-mechanical. It's not a traditional Royal Oak, but of course it's the bracelet.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful size. This has the old logo painted on there. It's just heaven. Price point around 10-ish.
Around 10-ish.
So it's a similar head-to-head with that Cartier. We have to move on to the next one is probably the most similar.
3430G. I brought that along because it's this actually isn't for sale. It's a colleague of mine's watch from his late grandfather, and it is an example of Patek thinking that they want to start a square watch, looking at the Calatrava and saying, all right, well, let's do something that's going to complement that range. And they've put it on this stunningly silky white gold bracelet. I mean, the price point on this, just for reference, is probably sub 10K, I would have thought. And I can't open it, for goodness sake. But that...
Can I just run the fingers
Yeah,
through?
please do. I mean, if they use that bracelet instead of the Nautilus bracelet, I know, it's incredible. It's absolutely wonderful, so comfortable, and I could do that all day.
Were the designers actually, because he did the whole design himself, Mr. Sainz says, so as a designer you're sitting there thinking, right, if that's true. It may not be true, because I think he's taking a bullet for the team. I think he's saying, right guys, we're in trouble here. I'm going to step forward.
No, I
think I'm going to take a bullet for everybody here and say it's all on me. Like, that's the leadership I believe he's showcasing, which I respect to some extent. But if that were actually true, the designers must have been pulling their hair out saying, Thierry, like, what are we doing here? This is not what we would suggest. Look at the drawings we've produced that look like this.
Yeah.
Look at the stuff feel the product. No doubt they did demos. They actually made other options. That's just pure elegance.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, under 10 grand.
I think you're being quite gracious about it. I think he's very proud of the.
Do you genuinely think he's proud of it?
And I think he wants to put his name out there as someone that spearheaded it, and not that he's
covering his arse of the others.
Covering his team. No.
Okay.
I really.
Okay.
That's my thought. Who really knows? But from the tone of the interviews that he's given since the launch, it feels that way. He's very proud of it, and I think that pride is misplaced.
You've come in with a Nautilus.
Yeah.
A two-tone variation.
Well, yeah.
Look at that.
That's a 3800.
Look at that.
I know. Yeah. And firstly, the correct size, I'd argue, 38 millimeters. It's not 45 millimeters.
Right.
Just to be clear.
Just to be clear.
And the price point on that is sub £30,000. And then if you compare that to the Cubitus that they've released with a blue dial, it's two-tone. Mm-hmm. That's, what did we say, 52? Mm-hmm. Something like that. Who would make the decision to go for a Cubitus?
We are going to get either a lot of love or a lot of hate underneath, and Mr. Stern commenting underneath.
Yeah.
Oh God. Right, I'll keep that on. I can't get that off. Oh. This is not a watch for sale, but this is an ellipse that you bought for yourself.
Yeah. Well, look.
I've never seen that. I've never ever seen that.
My birthday this week, so I thought I'd treat myself to a little
happy birthday,
a little something, and this was available for sale from someone in the US, and I have to admit I've never seen an ellipse with Breguet numerals and Breguet hands, and it spoke to me, and it's honestly a reminder of why at this point I don't think there's a new Patek that I would want to buy. I would much rather spend my money on pre-owned. Yeah. I'm not just saying that because
you're incredibly biased,
Subdial.
and I back you up as a man who is not paid to say that, but I back you up because it's so much more exciting and interesting, and traditional. And
absolutely. And from a values perspective, I think I paid 12,000 for it.
And by the way, they're not producing the ellipse in the right format currently. It is too big. It is the platinum blue dial is a wonderful combination. Even the black with the rose gold with the black, but it's not right.
No. Well, the ellipse.
Right.
Is a great
anyway,
watch.
a real quick finish, and then we'll leave you guys to the comments. We've got a Bulgari Finissimo, skeletonized.
Yeah. Why did I bring that along? I'll tell you. This is on paper very similar to the Cubitus because it's Genta DNA and it's a square-ish design, and yet it feels fresh and new. This is 40 millimeters, and it feels big for me. I think you can get away with it. The Cubitus is 45 millimeters. I'm going to say it as many times as is necessary to get my point across. The Cubitus is huge.
Sandblasted gold case is unbelievable, by the way.
It really
They've managed to create something really, really elegant here. And I think next year we're going to see something smaller from them. I think we're going to see a 38 mil with a new caliber.
Oh, wow.
Because the reason they haven't been able to do it is the caliber's just been too big.
Yeah.
They designed the movement first.
Yeah.
Get us a 38mm Octofinissimo, and that is a world-class watch.
They designed the movement for the Cubitus first, and it was round.
Yes. Well, I think they have a design team over there. They've got a design team over there. We've got the HO8 Hermes, another absolutely banging modern incarnation. Hermes with no real history or right to be behaving in this way, but delivering on every level.
Absolutely.
That's an incredible watch. Just remind me what the price is on something like that. That's
£4,000.
Under £5,000.
Yeah.
Incredible value proposition. And just, let's not forget that. The Hermes HO8, that's only been around a few years. That came from nothing.
Yeah.
That's a smash hit. The type font is unique to this model. They got someone to work on that. The case shape is unlike anything else. It's so wearable. The colours on the straps, it's just endlessly good value. Sorry, we have to finish.
No.
Last one, we've got an IWC, a Yacht Club 2.
Yeah.
Quartz, grey dial, grey bracelet. That is wonderful as well.
Integrated steel bracelet, Genta DNA. the right proportions, and £3,000. Yeah.
On that note, we may have got this entirely wrong. We may have done, and we'll watch this. We'll watch this in years to come. Tim Boy, thank you as always.
Thanks, Justin.
Please, guys, leave your comments below, and until next month, when Tim and I will be back, let us know what your thoughts are and what you'd like to see from us. Cheers.
Thanks.